Hi, this is David Adler. Before we start our podcast today, I wanted to talk to you about one of our great sponsors, Go West. It's a must-attend event in Canada for event professionals. It's produced in partnership with BizBash, and it's going to be one of those industry events that you really don't want to miss. There will be relevant education, experiential moments, and most importantly, the opportunity to meet industry influencers and engage with like-minded event professionals. So for more information, go to gowestevent.ca. That's gowestevent.ca. I look forward to seeing you there myself.
Welcome to Gather Geeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Editor-in-Chief Beth Kormanik.
Welcome to Gather Geeks. David is away. Today, our guest is Natasha Ellis, founder of Alive and Well Co. She's not an event producer, though she's done that in the past. Her company is an experiential partnership agency, which means she's a matchmaker between events and brands. If you're thinking, that sounds a lot like sponsorships, well, you're right, sort of. Natasha believes that sponsorship doesn't have the authenticity necessary for today's world, so she prefers to talk about modern partnerships. We're going to get into what that looks like. Here's a hint. It's not just a brand logo on a step and repeat. She's not afraid to call brands out, as you'll hear, and she'll also give examples from real events about successful partnerships, as well as explain whose responsibility it is to make sure activations are great. This discussion is going to be relevant for anyone in the sponsorship game, which, let's be honest, really means any event professional. Let's take a listen. Welcome to Gather Geeks, Natasha.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. So as we were just chatting before we started recording, you asked sponsorship. Do we even like that word? And I'm really curious, do you?
No.
Why not?
People have told me, and I feel the same way, it's a dirty word. It's an old word. It reeks of commercialism. In this economy of like benevolence and authenticity, it's not a good word to use.
So that, I guess it begs the question, what is the word?
A lot of people, what I describe my business is partnerships. It's a very broad term, but I like it because it could encapsulate money and commercialism, but it also could be where there's value going, in both directions. So I think partnership, while it's broad, even the word itself has a more positive feeling to it than sponsorship. I think sponsorship also feels like just logo sticking, which is so not in the world that we're in. So I'm actually right now playing with new language for my company, and I'm playing with modern partnership because I think we're in a total new frontier of what partnership, sponsorship, brand partnership, what that is.
Does it camouflage the economics of it in any way to not call it a sponsorship?
I don't think so, as long as you're very honest. So I'm very clear if I'm, reaching, I'm working here. I'll give you a real example. So I just sent an email before seeing you guys to CAA, the big agency in Hollywood. There's an amazing film festival. It's the first female film festival in LA next weekend. And I asked the folks at CAA if they'd be interested in, being a partner and offering funding. So I think as long as you're very clear in your ask, I just asked for an alcohol client for gifting to be a partner in a fashion event that's coming up. So I think as long as your follow-up post-partnership is what type of partnership it is, then I don't think it's camouflaging.
Mm-hmm. But you also seem like you understand the need. Most people that go after sponsorships never even research their end prospect in many cases. And in the event world especially.
Or do you mean she's specific in the ask?
You're just very specific in the ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you cannot, that sounds like one of your first rules.
shouldn't that be everybody's
Yeah,
role?
it should be, but you'd be surprised.
I appreciate that if someone has an ask of me that they're really clear.
You'd be shocked. Maybe not.
Well, we don't have enough time for camouflaged questions.
Right. So the term partnership also seems to imply to me a larger responsibility to make the experience more creative, or not just, as you said, a logo. Like what is the actual thing that you're offering in partnership that's going to enhance the event? Would you agree?
That's a big question. I mean, I tend to think about things in specific terms. So I'm going to reference an event that I have tomorrow in San Francisco. When I say, and I'll explain my business so this makes more sense. So I'm representing a female publisher. They're a new publisher on the scene. They have their first summit in San Francisco tomorrow with 325 women. I mean, I can disclose who it is. And I secured a wellness brand to be a partner, a funding partner. And I think what's critical in this world of partnerships today is really finding events, experiences, we can talk about those words too, mixed with partners where there's benefit to both. So the women who attend tomorrow's summit are really, really going to enjoy this brand, this wellness brand. And vice versa, this wellness brand fits really well in the ecosystem of this women's event. It's not a convincing, it's not a sale. Yes, there is money transacted, and certainly there's this brand wants to create awareness by being at this event and transaction. But there's benefit to both sides. Real benefit, nothing like a force fit. So
tell us about the evolution of your thinking and how you came to realize there needs to be a change in how partnerships, or in the old world sponsorships, were existing in events.
Well, I don't think it's me. I think it's the industry. I mean, I think the accountability. I mean, there's so many things in this world of marketing. I mean, in terms of like, whether it's data, whether it's reporting, the things that worked, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they don't work. And I think the asks, and the accountability and just the rigor around the industry and the transparency is so much more. So therefore, and it's not just in our industry, it's not just in the industry of marketing. I mean, whether it's the travel industry, the financial industry, everything's so much more exposed. And I think also the consumer has so much more power. So, I think trying to, bullshit somebody, whether it's, the trip you're taking, Beth, or the stocks you're investing in, David, or the product things, that doesn't work anymore. So,
was there an aha moment or one event where you tried something and realized that it was paying greater dividends, or that this is really the way the future is moving?
That's a tough question for me. This is going to sound so self-serving. I really try to put the right brands in the right events all the time. I try not to, make a marriage or create a relationship that isn't the right fit. I can think of something that I thought, felt that didn't feel aligned to me. I would say, Pop Sugar had an event, Playground. And I love the Pop Sugar brand. And there were a lot of strengths in the event. There were weaknesses in the event. I thought there were a lot of brands that synergistically did not make sense. I don't think a wellness experience with a beer, that doesn't work for me. Or maybe the way that it was composed didn't work for me. So I see a lot of examples of that where it feels forced. I think we see that with our friends at 29 Rooms. Now this is part of the podcast where I'm calling people out. But I think it's I think it's where you jump the shark of this is more of a commercial entity than this is an entity that's more about revenue generation than it is about the experience for the consumer.
So whose fault is that? Is that the brand who's hosting the event? Is it the sponsors who don't, or those people who are activating there who don't realize that they need to change their experience? Both?
I think it's really the publisher's responsibility.
Are you noticing that when, this is probably not the right thing to say either, but the idea that when a company is bought by a big corporation, there's less of that. When the entrepreneur is running it, is it a little more sensitive? Are you seeing any?
No,
any
I think it depends on the management. I don't think it depends if it's a small company or a corporate company. I mean, I know what you're saying. I mean, there's much more
there's so much at
financial
stake.
accountability when it's a public company. I think it depends upon the people who are leading it. I think it's irrespective.
But you have to have a conscience about it, or else your brand deteriorates, right?
Bustle did an event 2 weekends ago called Rule Breakers with Janelle Monáe and Sophie Tucker and Brian, who runs Bustle, who founded College Humor. He's very commercially driven. He's very, very transparent about it. I love it for that. I love anyone who's just, like no BS about what they're in it for.
Right.
And so here's David, to answer your question, I mean, Bustle, while it's a very, very commercial enterprise and they're super smart about, how they run their business, it was a really well done event in La Frac in Brooklyn. I mean, yes, it was certainly commercial and, Fossil was there but my feeling was yes, it was commercial, but the event was really, really well done first. So it's a commercially run company with a very commercial minded owner. But the experience of the event for the guest and for the brand was first, and the commercial entity followed. But
up against a filter of what sponsors would work.
Correct. Absolutely. So I think you didn't see, I'm going to make something up. I mean, you saw brands that were of interest to the Bustle girl. You did not see, I don't know, some mutual fund brand that's just not in the mindset of that consumer right now.
Planning an event and wondering how you can give your attendees the best experience possible? Take advantage of customized meetings with Hilton that make it easier than ever to incorporate health, wellness, and great breaks. Hilton will help you build an extraordinary meeting that attendees will remember. To book your next meeting or event, go to meetings.hilton.com. Do you see, like someone that goes out and sells sponsorships or partnerships, you must come across all those brands that want to force themselves in, right? I mean, they would die to want to be in there because they think it's going to transform.
I wish. Yes and no. I mean, marketers have so many choices today.
Yeah.
So, and the reality, it's like all the money goes to, the big five, or I'm stealing that from Africa. I don't know, the Amazons, the Googles, everything is obviously so programmatic driven. So when it actually comes to the money that's left for the physical world of experiences, there actually isn't that much. So, and hope, I mean, my task is obviously to change that, in the sense of putting ROI and measurement around that, which, we can talk about.
Yeah, for sure. That's like the big ROI is the big kahuna.
Yeah.
I'd love to, before we get into some of that, give people a sense of experiences that you have actually helped put together. So maybe give us a recent example or two of something that successfully brought brand and event together.
Sure. So this past summer, I've been working with the crew at The Wing, which is a women's membership club, who they're doing great work. They just opened up San Francisco. They're opening up LA in January. They had their audience obviously it's a physical business in the sense that it's a membership and networking. It's not real co-work. It's really a networking membership environment for women. They love to get together, and do as many events as possible. So they concepted doing a summer camp event, very like Moonrise Kingdom, kind of a throwback in the Adirondacks. And I helped bring Smart Water, which is a Coca-Cola water product, into that. Smart Water is doing a lot of stuff around women, around intelligence and inspiration. They're wanting to be a little more kind of like highbrow, a little more edgy, kind of in their marketing campaigns. So they've been doing some stuff with Infatuation. They're doing, which is a partner of mine, EatsCon happens to be this weekend. They are doing stuff with The Big Quiet. That's Jesse Israel's initiative that does meditations in unique spaces, whether it's, the Red Sox, whether it's United Palace in Harlem. So Smart Water is doing some really interesting activation work. And that was just a great way for them to have 3 days with their prime target. To have, 2 to 3 days of just interaction and saturation with your ideal demo. It's also a great equity play. Wing has really strong equity. And Smart Water is kind of making a shift in their brand direction. So they want to align with partners that are kind of, are aiding in this new brand direction for them. So that's one example. I feel like I spoke so long about that one example. If we want to move on to another question.
Yeah. So in that instance, what was Smart Water doing there? Just supplying water to the summer camp? Was there anything else to that?
Nike was there doing brought some of their ambassadors, fitness ambassadors. So it was really just like a hydration partner. So everything that they were doing in terms of, they had live music. I'm not remembering the musicians, but that was the official water partner. It was, whether it was, getting on the bus, heading to the Adirondacks, water by your, I was going to say bed, by your camp, by your bunk. That's what they just integrating in moments. And I think that's another key thing. I had a meeting yesterday with a major wellness global company, and they said, well, we're meeting our consumer where they already want to be. I think we're in this kind of world, we're having a lot of fatigue around pop-up of getting people to a space. And it's like, no, just come to me where I already am. I'm a Wing member. I'm one of the highlights of my summer is going to be this camp event, to be with 400 to 500 other, women, and just be part of that, So Smart Water chose to be part of that. Toomey chose to be part of that. Nike chose to be part of that. Red Bull chose to be part of that.
How much of the, what's the rule of thumb now? If you do a sponsored event and is it partially paid event? I mean, are people paying to come to this camp and then the sponsorship is an additional revenue source for them, or is it primarily the revenue source for those kind of events?
It really depends on the scale of the event. I mean, for instance, the Bustle event, when you have talent of that level, like a Janelle Monáe, and
yes.
Again, I don't know the relationship, but BeautyCon, although they'll say they don't pay for any talent, talent can be very, very expensive. So it's absolutely critical to have partnership funding money from brands, sponsorships.
And is it the majority of the revenue for these kinds of things? Or is it like in the old days of magazines, which I know, circulation was sort of a loss leader and advertising was the way
it is for the big
money.
Brands, for Refinery, for Bustle, for Pop, because ticket sales is really hard.
Yeah.
They will tell you,
yeah.
As much as it looks so exciting and everyone wants to go, they're usually not sold out until the final end, if they get sold out. And, if you just do the math, I mean, if it's $40 a ticket, I'm just thinking of something that's relatively turnkey, like a 29 rooms or the Rule Breakers event. And you have, that could roughly equal $500,000. You know what I mean? I mean, that's not covering anything. I mean, a big production, you know, with a top-notch experiential production firm is millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys know.
Yeah, sure.
So
it is sponsorship is now on the B2B side though, you're getting these B2B brands that you pay $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,500 to attend, and the sponsorship is on top of that in many cases. So there probably is a little more equity in those in terms of the cost versus the sponsorship versus the ticket sales side.
Yeah, I mean, I think also with B2B, you'll invest more.
Yes.
Because, I mean, like you look at this event that I'm doing in San Francisco is the What Summit. This is Gina Pell and Amy Parker's. It's a female publishing platform. They were the founders of Splendora. They got acquired. This is their third act. It's kind of like an Oprah 2.0. It's like micro communities. It's really amazing. And the tickets are, you know, I think it's $799, $800, and then there's like a $1,300 ticket. It's a major networking event, you know. I mean, Katerina Fike, who's a major Silicon VC. I mean, these are you're investing. I think with the B2B, you're making an investment in your, you know, it's like almost educate. You know, you're making an investment in yourself. So, I think in that instance, like the What Summit, they're going to make more of their money off ticket sales than they are brand partnership. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It depends.
And you work on both sides?
I work on both sides. So I help brands with their experiential marketing and partnerships, and I help experiential entities like Daybreaker, like Man Repeller, like Girl Boss, like BeautyCon, monetize with brand funding.
I have one question before we go on to the next. Are these organizations, if you're an event organizer, are you hiring someone like you, or are you building it internally, or you're doing both to sell sponsorships? Like, what does an event organizer do?
Well, it's really interesting. So I was, again, at a major wellness company yesterday, and I always have to tell them I'm not in production. Like, I'm strictly a partnership person. And so many of the time I get, I'm like, I can direct you to, you know, whomever it may be, but I don't do production. To answer your question, David, so many of the production firms, you know, whether it's Sabrosa or it's Lead Dog, or, you know, they're starting to think about sponsorship. I mean, so they're starting to think about the monetization side, but it's not, this is a new and growing area. It's now on the forefront of people's minds, but it hasn't been. And I think that is representative of just this world of brand partnerships, you know, even coming about. Like this, I mean, I sent you a visual of my Chase Pay with a Jaguar ad on it. You know what I mean? I mean, like, everything is becoming a partner moment.
Right. But what my question is, though, Daybreakers, for example, we love those guys.
Yeah.
Are they staffing up internally to sell sponsorships and partnerships? Or are they outsourcing it because it's very hard to find the person that has the right connections, and you building it from scratch is a very hard thing to do?
It's very hard. Daybreaker was one of my first experience partners in 2012. The Daybreakers, the So Far Sounds, the Beyond the Streets, the Photographiscas, they do not have partnerships people. So that's where a company like mine, Alive and Well, comes in. And I can tell you how this even came about, because it was totally by accident. So, but the company is like the Pop Sugars and the Bustles and I just finished a project with Discovery. They, of course, have major sales teams, but what they don't have is experiential sellers. So, and more brands are having, you know, folks who in-house who are experiential. So I think that's where it's been attractive to hire someone like myself, because of the experiential knowledge and contacts, you know, whether it's on the brand side or on the agency side or social or influencers or, it just goes on and on. It's all one big crazy, recipe. So
5 years down the road, you're like the coach of everybody then. It sounds like for these big media brands, I guess, in terms of.
My goal is to be more focused on the brand side.
On the brand side, okay.
Yeah. My goal is to build this business really as thought leadership, like what you guys have done so well, and be retained by brands on an ongoing basis for their experiential marketing and partnership strategies. Maybe in certain cases, we help. There's a project that's coming to New York that we're very excited about. It's called Beyond the Streets. It's graffiti art. It was just in LA. It just closed late August, early September. It's a real amazing, genuine art experience celebrating graffiti art. And, in those instances, like we want to take on and represent and bring in, the Googles, the Lexuses. It's going to be at the Lever House. It's going to be really a beautiful thing. So that's where we want to help the experiential entities, but really focus more, on helping the brands with their experiential strategies.
We're going to take a little break and come right back after this message from Hilton. So when's the big event? Hilton's here for planners with their exclusive customized meetings. Become a wow maker and save time by letting Hilton help you present an extraordinary event, one that leads to memorable and meaningful connections. Visit meetings.hilton.com and let Hilton help you.
So do you see the experiential sponsorship sales job, that role, as a hot area, something that we're going to see a lot of growth in the coming years?
Probably. There's so many people looking for a director of experiences at publishers, at brands. I don't know. I see a lot of them, or they come to me. So I think it's probably only natural that, someone who can do experiential sales. Maybe that's why, we've been busy and we've been lucky.
You said earlier that there's a big difference between events and experiences.
Right.
How does the brand look at that? What is the brand sort of perspective on that?
Well, going back to the question about the word sponsorships, I think they're the same word. I just think experiences is the cooler 2.0 version of events.
And are you saying that same thing? Experiences are the same word as events in the parallel universe that you're talking about?
I think they're one and the same. I just think the cool way to say it, is there's new words for it now. Events, not really a cool word. Activations.
Right, but it's interesting. I thought you had a whole different definition of what is an event. Just as simple, like get people together for a sales meeting is really has got to be an experience now. It can't be just an event.
Well, when I started the business in 2012, and I even have like a friend of mine from Facebook on my website, and he even says what Alive and Well does is not events. These are experiences. And I started this business totally by accident. I created experiences for publishers like Facebook, Microsoft, Yahoo, Thomson Reuters to entertain their clients. So when Facebook was pitching Samsung their renewal, they would hire me and I would produce an experience for them. So this is why I started with production and was like, oh my God, I'm not a producer, I'm a salesperson. But I would copy Daybreaker. I would copy So Far Sounds. I would copy these things that I was starting to see in 2011, 2012. And then it dawned on me that these, many things dawned on me, but the major thing was that Daybreaker and So Far Sounds and these entities are going to be their own marketing platforms, and I should sell them, instead of copying them. And so that was a huge shift. And that's really when Alive and Well was born. So, we say that we're an experiential partnership agency. We're a matchmaker manager between leading brands and leading experiences.
Mm-hmm. But it sounds like you have to educate the brands on how to do it properly, though. You're still not people are not just buying experiences like a commodity. you have to handhold them or no?
Totally. And that's where our focus is now. So, just in full disclosure, the business of representing publishers' experiential entities is not a long game. That doesn't have a longevity to it, because a lot of publishers have their own sales staff.
So they're going to be staffing up.
Yeah, they'll exactly what you said, Beth. Yes. They're going to build out their own sales team. I did a project for Girl Boss for their rally, last November. I'm close with the president. She has since then hired a sales team. Same thing with BeautyCon. They had no, person for monetization all of 2017. I came in to help, but, ultimately they don't want a third party. They want to, breed their own, salespeople. So that's where the brand is the focus. And absolutely. I think also I keep referencing this, this global wellness client I was with yesterday. They're so focused on what's right in front of them. It's hard for them to see the macro view of what's going on. And that's where it's helpful for them to have someone come in and be like, hey, this is what, really worked that Well and Good was doing, or, hey, this is what really worked that Sweet Green's doing, in terms of those kind of marketplace experiential insights, which, listen, you guys do, all day. I come from it from a partnerships angle. And so I think that's the benefit and kind of the watch out that I bring to one of the things I said to this wellness client yesterday. They just went through a major rebrand. So you might know who they are, I said, be very careful. I said, I'm actually more pro you owning your own events. I'm actually very sensitive of you going into other people's events, because you don't own your brand as much when you're like plugged into Girl Boss or plugged into Create and Cultivate, and you're in a sea of other brands. So you'll get there. But right now it's like, it's new waters. So kind of go it alone, a little, or wait.
So your advice for them was just to start an event?
My advice for them was to do their own O&O events, or to be very, very critical with third parties that they partner with, and maybe create their own experiences with a third party publisher, but not be in a Create and Cultivate environment where it's like a marketplace of brands. Oh, there's L'Oreal. Oh, there's, RX Bar. Maybe that's okay for certain brands, but in the case of the brand I'm referencing, it's not okay, because they have a new story to tell and they have to tell it on their own. So those are the in my opinion, that's an example of like a best practice that could be shared.
So when should a brand do it on their own? I mean, what is what do you see when you go into a brand? What do you see? How do you know that, oh, you guys should be doing it on your own versus you should be in the marketplace of brands that are at an event, at Coachella or whatever? Like, how do you judge that?
I think a brand that's a lot of it comes
money
to budget.
Too. Yeah, I mean, it's budget.
I think it depends on the maturity cycle of your brand. It depends on your customer. I mean, I love like what Dirty Lemon's doing, with their soda bar, in the Lower East Side. They are a young brand they're really having a moment in these like elixir drinks and CBD drinks. And, Zach and the team there, I mean, they want to have their own, they want to own their own experiential. So they're a very new brand. And I think they would prefer to put, hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever that investment is, into their own experience before, spending that equivalent amount of money on sponsorship. They're also very cool, so they can stand alone. I'm not sure how cool some L'Oreal brands are on their own. So they need to be in the cool of BeautyCon. It really depends on brand stage, brand identity.
But are we in a revolutionary period for this though? I mean, it seems like we're going to look back in 5 years and we're going to say, oh my God, this is when brands decided that creating their own events, if they're big enough and they're positive enough, this could be the moment.
Yeah. I think it has to be a good experience.
Yeah.
I mean,
Has to be really well crafted.
That's a tried and true.
Right. But this is the moment that their eyes are opening up that, oh, I can have my own event.
Yes, everyone wants to be in the experiences business, whether they're, in a third party or doing their own. I kind of laugh about it. It's like, what museum is opening up today? The sock museum, the underwear museum. I mean, it's a little bit, it's a little much.
The ice. I mean, you have an opinion on the ice cream museum? I was assuming the pop-ups of the ice cream world and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing what they've done.
Yeah.
I think the quality of the experience has gotten better. But I don't know. I think
is it over? Or is
their moment?
Their moment. Is their moment over? We can just us.
I think what they did with Target, with the Pint Shop was really, really smart. That partnership. I mean, I know the folks in that partnership. That took a long time, to get done. It is Target, obviously. They do the best of the best experiential. They're doing an amazing thing now on the High Line that you guys, it's live now. It's this 1 mile opera.
Oh, I saw that. Yes, they did. They were doing it over the weekend.
Yeah, they're doing it it started yesterday. Yeah. It's amazing. Target is someone we work with, and they just do the best. So, I think, I just think it has to come down, to a real, to a good experience.
But is there a life cycle of it? Is there a life cycle of these experiences? And then I'll try to go from there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in bringing up Target as well. You're noting that there's a difference between these homegrown experiences like Museum of Ice Cream, that they're their own thing. And then the brands realized, oh, hey, this is a concept that works. And they came in and you have the big budget for those to do these amazing experiences like Target. And we've covered other ones like from Coach, for instance, and others. And so they see the opportunity. It is a bit of a fad, I think. But for now, consumers are going for it.
I think they're going. I don't think it's going away. I think what it's going to do is it's just going to get better. And like the Kellogg's, store in Union Square, I don't think Kellogg's they're not going to be doing that, because I don't think, the Cadillac space, for instance, down on Hudson, that's beautiful. I think Cadillac did a fantastic job of having a branded destination. I think ones that are really commercially driven aren't going to work. Lexus has been working on a space here, I think, for a couple of years. I mean, it's going to be like the most gorgeous. It's an art space. It's not about, I'm a huge proponent of commercialism and revenue is a byproduct of a great experience. So it has to be experience first. And that's what I think. I don't think this is going away. Togetherness, human interaction. I only think it's building.
Oh yeah, loneliness is the number one biggest disease in the world.
Right. I mean, let's also not forget. I started Alive and Well in 2012. Instagram was started in 2010. Snapchat launched in 2011. If those two things if those platforms didn't exist, we would not be having this conversation right now. So it's the boon of visual social media. I don't view Facebook as visual social media. Right. It's visual social media. It's 3-dimensional social media, also mixed with tech addiction. Those are big contributors to, this world of this physical marketplace, and it's not just experiences. I mean, I have a meeting after here. I'm heading down to a major wellness retailer that I'm helping doing all their sonic branding. The new, hearing is the new seeing. I mean, here we are in this podcast. Yep. So, I'm helping them with their sonic landscapes for their stores. That is, that's experiential for their own retail environment. I mean, retail experiential is huge. So this is not going anywhere, And I think in terms of these like Disneyland experiences, the Museum of Ice Cream or, the color factories, the Candytopias, those are just going to get better because how many can we have?
But you also, experiences have to improve in order to stay experiences. I mean, that's kind of a big, basic concept.
Absolutely. So
It's so interesting. It's so interesting, this whole area. But what about the human interaction piece? I mean, don't we crave that too?
totally. And I think that's a huge distinction on the experiences that are good versus not good. I mean, I with 29 rooms, I struggle with that experience because you have all these people who are here for the same thing. They're very excited. They're captive. And I don't think they've done a good job of bringing people together. It's this isolated journey and there's no togetherness.
So do you think that the experience that really makes a difference is where I call them, how do you become a collaboration artist?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get sort of high performance collaboration of some sort
Mm-hmm.
other than just walking through being a tourist?
Totally. It's like it truly is, I mean, just a museum experience.
Right.
You know, it's like just among strangers. You know, that's I think that's been a challenge for big experiential. I mean, you can have, you know, Cherry Bomb's going to be doing their first university event at the end of October. I'm a big fan of Carrie and her property, and you know, it's a much more of a lo-fi experience. I mean, she's doing classrooms with 25 people, you know, and Martha Stewart's going to be there, and Kristen Tossi's going to be there. That's amazing. You know what I mean? I mean, that's real togetherness. And you can do that when you're in these kind of intimate settings. It is challenging once you get into the beauty cons and the Coachella and things like that. But I think really creative people and really good organizers can stimulate some level of interaction and togetherness, or that moment of really that humanness.
Well, giving people permission to talk to each other is my big thing. That you actually have to do that.
Well, that's my favorite. Consistently, I love theatrical experiences. I love what McKittrick has done. You know, I love, anything that pushes people into that kind of like, it's a little scary. I'm going outside my comfort zone.
Yeah, we covered that in our fall issue. We have a story about immersive theater and how the options are, you know, you can either take something that they've created and kind of apply it to your brand, or develop your own program, or have somebody develop something specific for you. It is very interesting and an evolving space.
Totally.
I had a question shifting into the climate that we're in right now, in which there's more social activism. Mm-hmm. People are seeing brands. Some of them are going wholly into it. You see Nike with Colin Kaepernick, and that's a huge example. But in terms of experiences and acknowledging the climate that we're in today, are brands into this? And what are they asking your advice on this? And tell us if this is something that everyone really should be paying attention to right now.
Yeah, I've got to pick like which topic, which thing to be an activist about. My first reaction is brands are being careful. I'm even careful. So, you know, for instance, Laura from Women's March, I was careful in submitting it in a pitch because I wasn't sure the reaction, you know, of this major retailer, of like how they, you know, feel about that. So I think it really depends on the brand. You
like
know,
Vogue Teen Summit.
Right.
They're unabashedly
totally
being activists.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it depends on the topic. I think it depends on the brand. I mean, for me specifically, I still see sensitivity around this, that brands, I don't think they want to get too close.
We were just in Toronto, and
it's not very specific, but that's my...
Like charities, sick kids, instead of going to go for the tears, they're going for the, let's get angry. And you're seeing that happening as well in the nonprofit world.
Okay.
I guess that's less sense of, you're not picking a side in a sense, but you're seeing a little bit more like, let's
aggression?
Get mad. Yeah. Let's get a little more aggressive.
Using emotion in a different way.
Yeah.
Using a different emotion.
Meaning like the charities,
instead of like, here's this
Right.
poor sick kid, to let's be angry that we're not doing enough to solve this problem.
I think that's acceptable now.
Yes,
right?
I think that's what happened in the political
Absolutely.
atmosphere.
But I think also that's maybe where, brands are a little bit careful. It depends on the brand.
Totally,
It really depends on the brand.
It takes a lot of like courage and risk.
Right. I mean, even these, I'm just thinking of Elon Musk, he's really like, going through it right now. And he's such a beloved individual and such a beloved company, but he's being, I think brands are careful. I'm careful. Yeah.
Right. So let's end it with like the crystal ball. I mean, we talked a little bit about you've started your business in 2012.
Yeah.
It's 2018.
Right.
What do you see the next 5 years from now? Do you have any idea what's going to happen? Or are we like, did you foresee where we are now in 2012? Probably not, but I have to ask the perfunctory question, like, what does the future look like?
I mean, I think brands, we know this, lifestyle, right? Lifestyle marketing, lifestyle brands. I'm intrigued with travel. Whether it's, Well and Good, is doing these travel trips, or Weight Watchers does, all these travel excursions. Oprah has her cruise, coming back. I think, this is one side, this is like real, this is kind of like Smart Water, doing the wing. I think brands, today and in the future have such an opportunity. They are so much the identity of human beings. And I think that's, brands that are doing it right are only going to like get stronger in this, So, I think having and I think we're seeing it with four walls in terms of like Lexus opening up a townhouse, or, Anheuser-Busch or Cadillac. I think we're going to see it even go more. Let's say you're I think Outdoor Voices has done such a great job. They're an apparel company in such a busy, I do a lot of stuff in wellness and in such a busy category. Who needs another legging, but they are like, talk about tribe, Outdoor Voices does some retreat to Costa Rica. That thing's going to sell out in a second. So I think, more like, substantial experiences. I'll call it that. I haven't ever said this before, but like longer, more substance experiences are going to be
transformational experiences.
Yeah, but where people wanted Well and Good to do these retreats. People want to go on a cruise ship with Oprah. I think you're going to see more of it.
Do you think brands are going to then see these as revenue centers as opposed to marketing channels? Like they're gonna go start getting sponsors for their own experiences.
Honestly, I think they're retention strategies.
They're mostly but do you think that the guys the executives sitting at the brand levels to say, oh my God, we can make revenue off of this?
Oh, I think there is revenue, but you're not. I love how everyone's into the experiences business, especially the publishers. I'm going to be meeting with a big publisher. And they're like, oh, we're really getting into experiences. And I'm like, yeah, of course you are, because everybody is. But it's a lot of money and it's blood, sweat, and tears, my friend, So just like buckle up. I think to answer your question, yes, there's revenue, but it's really about retaining your customer and having a relationship with them for a long time. I asked my friends, Nori and Gigi of Target, they talked about all the collaborations they do at Target. And I said, what does senior management think of experiential at Target? You guys do a lot of it. And they're like, oh, we have to. It's absolutely that emotional connection, building sentiment. Yeah, we do all the other stuff, but we have to, because we are, we're a brand that's with consumers for their whole life cycle. And to do things, whether it's the Pint Shop with Museum of Ice Cream, or the amazing, Hunter Boots launch that they did with a Rose Bowl family takeover with, those are real value add experiences to people's lives. You know what I mean? And it just so happens that, a brand, in that case, Target, is bringing it to them. So the commercial entity is there, but it's not what's leading. So, I think it purely as a revenue source, forget it.
So the green eye shade guys better sort of forget that right away, or else they're going to erode their business.
They're going to have a shitty experience.
Yeah,
We've seen that. I don't need to name names already.
Yeah.
So
avoid that.
Avoid that. Just stay in display.
Yeah.
Stay in the reach game.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And finally, for me, if there's one thing you would want everybody to know about brands and partnerships, like, don't leave this podcast without learning this tidbit of information, what would that be?
Whew, that's a good one, Beth. Let's think here. With hat should I think? My sales hat or my
your human hat?
My human hat.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Why I started this business was I felt Alive and Well is about enlivening brands and people. I do this because it's the second part. It's enlivening people. Brands pay for it. Thank you very much. But it is all about the goosebump. It's all about the sparkle in the eye. It's all about the moment of, of feeling as a species what we are. Whether that's delighted, whether that's scared, whether that's amused, whether that's curious, whether that's more connected. That is absolutely my ethos, whether you're a brand, whether you're a publisher. That should be like the holy grail filter of what you do. And I'm all about commercialism, but secondary, to that.
And finally, tell our listeners how they can reach you and learn more about your company.
Okay. Well, you can reach us at www.aliveandwellco.com. You can also follow us at Radical Humanness on Instagram.
Terrific. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. It's Beth back in our podcast studio. I hope you found that conversation as insightful and useful as I did. Event professionals have to be thinking about partnerships in new ways and how these sponsors can enhance an event. So questions about what event is best for a brand or whether they should start their own, what form a partnership will take, and her challenge to keep experience first are all essential. So once you put these ideas into action, we want you to tell us about them. Get in touch by emailing us at tips@bizbash.com. You can also tag us on Instagram. Our handle is @bizbash, or you can use #bizbash. But do email us as well. Our editorial team meets twice a week, and we kick off our meetings by looking at event photos from across the US and Canada. We get inspired, we spot trends, and decide what we're going to share with readers. And we're always looking for new, smart event strategies. Thanks to our podcast producer, Dave Nelson, to Claire Hoffman from our editorial team, and Rebecca Pappas, our VP of Client Services and Audience Development. Until next week, gather on.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the Gather Geeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter @GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of Gather Geeks. Until then, gather on.
This episode was brought to you by Go West, the must-attend event in Canada for event professionals. If you are an event planner, use coupon code GatherGeeks to attend for $99. Register at gowestevent.ca. That's gowestevent.ca. I will see you there.